I remember when I was in school, I did a project about Napoleon, who the reason I did it wasn't what I ended up taking away from it, because when you look at Napoleon at face value, you think of him as a badass conqueror type, strong man. Like, what can we learn from this, like, military genius and so on? But what I was surprised to learn, even as a child, in going in depth on his history, was that while he definitely was a great military leader, but also he was a massive nerd. And in many ways, we spoke about this earlier in relation to the riots, but he was another embodiment of small dick energy. They literally have a complex about him as a result. And that's the tone to go into Ridley Scott's latest historical epic that reunites him with his gladiator cohort, Joaquin Phoenix, in the titular role Napoleon, released in cinemas last week, with a apparently 4-hour cut still to follow on Apple TV after its cinematic release. The story begins with the French Revolution and tells of how Napoleon used the ensuing chaos as a ladder to rise through the ranks to become one of the period's most fearsome military minds. However, it also peels back the aura to look at how hopeless the conqueror was in his family life, with the sordid details of the indiscreet affairs of his wife Josephine, who's played excellently by Vanessa Kirby in a real kind of like, whether she gets that right, the movie hinges on whether the movie works or not, and she definitely does. While these affairs kind of fill the tabloids of the times, at times it feels like Scott is directing multiple different movies at once, and that's kind of a criticism that a lot of people are rolling back on. Sometimes it feels like kind of Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, with kind of epic battles scaled proportionately as you thank yourself for being there watching it in an IMAX screening to be blown away. And I recommend, if you're interested in this movie, go see it in IMAX, because the battle scenes definitely do justify it. At other times, though, it reminded me of almost underrated 2018 gem, The Favorite, with palace intrigue and drama also almost being played for the farcical silliness that it really is. What the ads don't tip you off to is that this movie is often quite a dark comedy, but it plays it so serious in other aspects that you're not sure if it's supposed to be, or if the movie is just getting the tone wrong. And that can be really jarring, especially if you've no context going in and are expecting a kind of old school war epic filled with giant gruesome battle scenes. You do get the latter, but I can see people watching the comedic elements and seeing it as the movie failing, and the widely kind of conflicting mixed reviews it's getting reflect as much. Even in my own screening, you can kind of see that the audience there, like, I was laughing throughout, and there were times where I kind of felt people kind of look over at me and kind of be like, "You're not supposed to laugh." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's clearly fucking funny." But they didn't really get that it was tone, because it was so kind of dry, the humor, and so subtle as well. If you have dug deeper than surface levels with Napoleon, though, like myself, you know that this is kind of par for the course for the experience of learning more about him. The movie isn't really interested in being a historical text and giving you the full zoomed out story of the politics of the age. It's more about digging deep into the psyche and ripping apart the farce that came with the peak 19th century world power. In that sense, Joaquin Phoenix bringing crosses of kind of his nervous, Beau is afraid energy with some of his threateningly disarming Joker energy is absolutely spot on for this role. He's so good at effortlessly being a nerd while also managing to maintain his strength and power, doing little things like he's trying to swat a fly off his face at one stage and he accidentally slaps himself, or he's trying to be smooth with Vanessa Kirby, Josephine, at one stage, and goes in for a kiss and his hat falls off. And it's those little things that really add up to kind of, this character is just like, there's something up with him. To continue the Game of Thrones parallel, he reminds me a bit of Stannis Baratheon. He's, on one hand, an expert military mind trapped in the same body as a cold, pathetic little creep defined by his own screaming inferiority complex. The battle scenes, of which there are a good half dozen in total, are exactly what you want them to be. The score sets the tone perfectly, and by the time the action starts, you're perfectly primed, with each one telling their own unique story without ever feeling too samey. It's ambitious to tie all of that, like, it's ambitious to tie all of that together. And does it always work? No is quite frankly the answer. It can feel like two completely separate movies. The struggle to snap back between the epic battles and the farcical family drama. So if you don't feel this movie, I get it and I understand. For me, though, being fascinated by that ultimate dichotomy and contradiction of Napoleon, I really enjoyed it and thought it was a brave swing at trying to tell a fully rounded, unsympathetic portrait of a complex man. I think it's good that you know, though, what kind of movie you're going to see. And if you're prepared for it and it sounds up your alley, there's a lot to like here. I really enjoyed this movie overall. At the same time, I've heard many people say that even the 3 hours wasn't long enough to achieve what they were going for. And there's some truth to that too. But to watch a 3 hour film and come out wanting more and to be looking forward to the 4 hour cut where you probably get a lot of the things that people feel are missing from this, to me, that's a win. Like Napoleon's life, this was a brave attempt at trying to conquer the world that maybe didn't achieve all it set out to do, but ultimately went down swinging. And no one will ever say that it's not at least memorable. I enjoyed it personally. Your taste may vary, but I recommend going to see it if it sounds like something you're interested in.